Greetings. Welcome back to my channel. My name is Tammy, and on this channel I'll be sharing my spiritual journey from Christianity to Nuwaubian. One of the major aspects of my journey is the teachings. This is what greatly helped with my transitioning and my mental healing, along with reading the scrolls and books written by our master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. Here are a few of my scrolls. The mind, very powerful. Conscious being. Atlantis. One of my personal favorite, I Know This Man. And this one was really heartwarming because it was an experience between him and the master teacher. Genetic Kiss. Everybody need to get this book, because you need to know what you are doing when you are out there with all these partners that we have and all this putting our mouth on people, kissing and all that. You really need to get this scroll. The Other Circle of Existence. Another great one. Feeding the Forces. If it ain't positive, don't give your energy to it. The Lost Records of Time. Another great one. These are just a few of mine that I have read, and I just wanted to share it. But if you are interested in and would like to order any of the scrolls, I'll put the link at the bottom of the page. Today I have a few clips of the teachings from our student teachers, Dr. Sakin Sakham Reye and Asaru Tahuti Atun. These recordings are live recorded, and the world is asking them questions. It's not script, it's just all knowledge. So I hope you enjoy.
Where did Yanun get this knowledge from? Do you know about the jinn? And if so, how do they relate to Anu and the Anunnaki?
Yeah, the jinns are a species of these extraterrestrials. Like I said, there's agreeable and disagreeable one. When you say Yanun, again, in the Quran, he's mentioned by different names throughout all the scriptures. Ya-nun, like you're talking about. In Arabic, they will say, oh, light. Ya, oh, and nun. But really, his name in the Quran is referred to as Al-Qadir, the green one. He's known as Melchizedek. He's known as Tahuti. He's known as the angel Michael or Michael. He's the archangel, but he's an incarnation, meaning that the same being incarnates from time to time and generation to generation. As I said, he's the recorder of most of the knowledge on the planet. And like I said, he's also a linguist, and he's able to speak all the languages of the scriptures and has actually translated every scripture from its original, or as close as possible from the originals that you'll ever have. So he's translated the Torah, he's translated the Injil, he's translated the Psalms, he's translated, basically every scripture you can think of.
Book of the Dead coming forth by
day. The Book of the Dead, or what people call the Book of the Dead, is the coming forth by
Psalms.
day. Yeah.
Injil, Torah.
Not only that, he's put himself to the test. Like we say, he was like, ask me any question. And he put the information out into the world by writing books so people can check it out and then ask him questions. But you know what? I need to make this clear, yeah? Islam is a beautiful religion for the Muslims, yeah? Christianity is a beautiful religion, those who practice it properly, for the Christians. Judaism is beautiful for the Jews. All of them have the fake ones and the real ones. we are not telling anybody not to follow that. It's a beautiful thing for them. But as Sabaeans, we have our own culture, our own scriptures, our own way of life, which is Wu Sabat. And that's what we are living. We're not telling anybody to not live their way of life, but Wu Sabat predates all of them. And it goes back and connects us back to our ancestors. And we have a divine connection with them, and it works for us. And anyone can be a part of Wu Sabat. We have our own culture, our own language, because to have a culture, you must have your own language, your own tones, your own vibrations and frequency, you know. So it's important that we clear that up, because we're not here to challenge, you know, Christianity, Islam or Judaism. Like, if it works for you and that's your way of life and that's what you choose to do, fine. But it's not the way for African people.
Why have we been taught to fear death? What is death?
Death basically is just a transformation into another state of existence. You're just really transforming into another state of existence. But it's religion. That's the key. Like fear, burn. Like, you know, the fire game or the fire card. That's what I try and draw on, man. But yeah, this fear thing. As a master teacher said, we only fear what we don't know. Once we know, we no longer fear.
Yeah, what is it? False illusion appearing real? There's some acronym for fear. But that's a good question, because when you're a child, you don't fear anything. It's the conditioning and the society and the religion that starts to make you afraid. You know why? Because they teach you that if you're good, you're going to go to heaven. And if you're bad, you're going to go and burn in hell forever. So people are afraid to die because you can't be good all the time. That's the actual fact. Like, it's religion that teaches you to be good all the time. And, you know, this whole concept of turn the other cheek. Nobody can be good all the time. Nobody can be bad all the time. So it's a balance of trying to be like, do your best, and, you know what I mean? So when they teach you about you're going to get burnt, it's because you feel like you're a sinner. And remember, I touched on the word sin, which goes back to Nana sin. Because what it is if you lean more to that side of your nature, you're made to feel guilty. Like, oh, there's no hope for you. So what happens is sometimes when people do something or make a mistake or they feel they've done something wrong, guilt sets in. And instead of going, you know what, I made a mistake, I can get up, I can fix up, I can be all right. They're like, oh, well, I've sinned anyway, so I might as well carry on. And then they just go deeper and deeper into sinning to the point where it's like, well, I'm doomed anyway, I'm doomed, so I might as well just carry on. But no, that's just the religious concept. There's no fire burning anywhere in the middle of the planet, because people have traveled from the north to the south and gone through the planet, journeyed to the center of the earth, and there's no hell burning like that. The concept comes from the burning that takes place within you, because it's called desires. Like, you have desires that you need to burn out. When you're trying to live a righteous life, you might be like, you know what, I need to stop drinking, I need to stop smoking, I need to stop doing these things that are not good for me. And you struggle and have that burning within you until you actually are able to burn out that desire. And that's the burning. So you actually create hell for yourself by the things that you do. And why would God have a place to judge you when he can stop you making mistakes? This is why we keep coming back to this God concept. Like, you judge yourself every day by the things you do. You know, like, nothing gets done straight away. Like, for example, if you're smoking cigarettes and you know that it says on the packet, smoking kills, yeah? You're not going to die straight away, obviously. But if you keep smoking for 10, 20, 15 years, eventually, if not everybody gets, you know what I mean, cancer or whatever, but like, if you did get cancer because you were smoking, you have no one to blame but yourself, because you knew it was going to happen by the actions you were taking. That's just one example.
Die.
First of all, we don't die because energy cannot be destroyed. It can only be trapped or transformed. However, we know what the question is referring to, because this physical body, as we call it, is bacteria, is from the dust of the ground, not in the sense of God took ground and formed man, and we're going to explain that, because everything is a cycle. Things recycle, nature recycles. So the reason the dust thing comes in is because when a woman is pregnant, most women that are pregnant, they have problems with their sinus, right? They have sinus problems, and that's because the dust of the ground, they breathe it in. And the being that is within their stomach at that time, as I explained the last time, is that the sperm travels up the spinal column to the cerebellum to get ignited through the pineal gland to receive the energy that becomes what people call the soul. When that soul is being grown in the mother's stomach as the goddess creator, when she's breathing in dust, the dust of the ground actually then becomes congealed and it forms the limbs and all of that with that pure energy or ethereal being that is being grown in her stomach. And then you come out obviously as a baby with, you know, with limbs and so forth as a baby. But when you translate the different parts of you, because you're made up of your physical body, you have a spiritual body, you have a plasmatic body, you have a mental body, you have an etheric body. These are all parts of you, but they exist in different vibrations or frequencies known as, they all have nutational rates, yeah? So you're connected to all of them at the same time, but they vibrate at different frequencies. And so when and the reason you're on this lower plane is to master the lower planes, which is the physical, the spiritual, the mental, and the soul, or the soul and the mental. And there's others as well, right? So when you pass on, it's like your elements decompose and go back to the vibration where they came from. And the real you, so your soul being, will travel on to the plane of soul. Your mental being is connected to the mental realm. So a simple way of describing this is that you're like a computer connected to a network, and you're connected to that network by something called the etheric cord. Just like computers on a network here are connected by the Ethernet cord. And once you're connected, you can access the different realms that you have access to. And the more spiritual you are, or the higher you vibrate, you can connect to the higher realms. So people who are more spiritual and they visit these abodes, like in your what people call sleep or dream state, they will travel to these different dimensions and different realms. So it all depends on what you're calling you, because the different parts of you, like what you call death, but it's not really death, it's just really transmuting or translating. And if you don't make the grade, you can come back and keep doing the cycle. Every culture, they keep records and recordings. In the scriptures, there are many records that are kept by these extraterrestrials. Like our ancestors, the Natharu, they keep what we call me stones, crystals that record the information on the planet. And Tahuti, who is known by many names, he wrote like the emerald tablets, yeah? He is the being that wrote most of the information or recorded the information on this planet. And some of those tablets were stolen or shared with the Anunnaki. One of the tablets is known as the Tablets of Destiny. And this is why when I was explaining that the biblical stories, they come out of these tablets, like the Gilgamesh epics, the Enuma Elish, the Atrahasis, there's so many Sumerian tablets, and they found them. So the ancient Egyptians, they kept records, and a lot of the hieroglyphics that are written on the walls, this was recording. Even like on the walls, like the Seti, I don't know if you know about Seti Temple, right? They were in Abu Simbel. They had carvings on the walls that tell the story of things that took place, how the gravitation took place, for example. This is why they chopped it up and moved it, because the way the rotation of the planet, at a certain point, the sun would shine on those walls that were telling the story. So when you look at ancient Egypt and look at the writings, this is why our master teacher, partner Nuwaubian, Dr. Malachi Z, he's a linguist that speaks over 19 languages, and he's been able to translate. He's not the only one, because Zachariah Snitchin was also translating some of the Anunnaki tablets. You've got people like Bill Carson, as I mentioned before. He claims to be able to read some of the stories. So most of the things that we're talking about were recorded on ancient tablets and passed down from generation to generation. And a lot of these tablets are now available. The Book of Enoch. There are many books that are not in the Bible. The Bible today was composed of 66 books that the Nicaea Council came together to select which books to put in the Bible. And there's many books that are left out, like the Book of Wars, the Book of Generations, the
Book of Jubilee.
The Book of Enoch. There's many books that talk about these things, but because most people are only given a King James version, which is just one translation of many, they don't get the full story. So you'd have to read other books that were left out. Another one, like people don't know, Jesus had wives and children, but the way they teach you, if you don't know, you won't see it. Like the wedding in Cana, that was his wedding. Because if you read the story properly, why was he the person they're coming to ask about wine, etc.? There's so much we can go into, but I'm just trying to say that if you don't read the scriptures in the original language and from the original tablets, you get lost.
Because every man comes from a woman. She still would have had to get pregnant by a man first.
Excellent question. This was one of the ones I saw, and I was looking forward to this. Because, like the first part, we literally scratched the surface. Yeah, there was many things we didn't go into. And that question, when you start to deal with women and men, you're dealing with XX for a woman and XY for a man. But before that, you have XYX and YXY, which deals with the hermaphrodite and the hermaphrodites, right? And the reason the woman is first, because when you look at a Y, it's a defective X. So one of the stems of the X, the one on the right-hand side, has been broken off. So this is why even scientists will tell you that the X has more genetic material. And if you look at it, even on a telescope, it's bigger than the Y. So a man will have everything a woman has, like what we call mammary glands, and he doesn't feed a child or a baby, he doesn't produce breast. So the way women produce, or certain reptiles, they're able to produce through something called asexual reproduction, like single cells breaking into other cells. And when you look at the genetics, the genitals of a female, she has a clitoris, right? I don't know if this is censored, but like she has, this is also biology, isn't it? So the clitoris is actually a small penis, because when the child is like up to 6 weeks, the gender is not known. It's neutral gender. This is what, when I was saying about the hermaphrodite and the hermaphrodite, these are beings that can have both genitals, yeah? But what happens is, again, we have a scroll that goes into that. When you see the child or the fetus at 6 weeks, yeah, the penis in the woman will go down and go in and become a clitoris. The male, it will go out and become a penis. Yeah, so women were here first, and they were even able to reproduce by themselves because they secrete fluids, yeah, called the urethral. Yeah, you can check out and research parthenogenesis, yeah, which deals with women, because originally women used to lay eggs, and they still lay eggs now. It's just that, like, chickens lay eggs, and the eggs come out, and then they wait and sit on them until they hatch for the baby to come out. Women now have it within them until when the egg hatches, they call it their water breaking. Yeah, so they were actually able to impregnate themselves from the fluids that were secreting from the penis back into themselves. And back in those days, they used to always have twins. This is why you have 2 mammary glands. And people will say, how is it possible? There's actually some women still on the planet today that have been able to give birth to themselves. And this is where the whole like Virgin Mary and that concept comes from, because they were saying, how did you get pregnant without a man? But yeah, do some research on the different chromosomes. As I said, the XYX, the YXY, and then you have the XX and you have the XY, which is male or female. And then you have the chromosomes, which you'll have 23 chromosomes from the man, 23 chromosomes from the female, and then you get the 46 chromosomes that make you up. DNA is actually the science of today, like our ancestors, that's their technology, and they can break down and prove everything now by way of genetics. I don't know if you want to
Yeah,
add anything
like
to that.
the Bible story, like God putting man in Adam into a deep sleep and then taking a rib out and then creating woman. Like, come on, how's man gonna accept that? How's there ain't no fallopian tube or womb here in man's rib? So how's God creating a woman out of man's rib? Like, explain that. But because we're supposed to have this faith and believe God can do all these things, man, just accepting that rubbish there. You know
Look
what I
at
mean?
this as well. When you look at the word woman, you always see man inside of
Yeah.
woman. You look at the word lady, you see lad inside of lady. You look at the word female, you see male inside of female. So it's
She.
actually, it's actually quite obvious.
Yeah.
I don't know the people that want to fight this. Yes, we understand about the sperm going into the woman now to create, because nowadays a lot of women don't remember how they used to do it or are able to still do it. So now they need a man. And remember that we say the domain of the planet is woman. That's why everyone says she, and they refer to everything as she, performs good for me, Mother Nature. But when you come out of the planet now, you're dealing with God, that's a he, because he's not from here, you see. So this is where all the misconception comes in. And I touched on this last video where I said about the dolphins, right? The extraterrestrials or our ancestors, they actually put a capsule inside the dolphins and transported the dolphins here. And when the dolphins went in the water, that melted and then germinated the waters. I'm talking about early life forms, yeah? This is why people will tell you how we're genetically close to the dolphin. And if you start even looking at the chromosomes and things like that, and then life evolved from the waters onto land, which again, we kind of touched on the last time, where I explained that when you go into ancient cultures and they tell you about the creation stories, the Bible stories, if you go to like the Dogons, or you go to the Egyptians or the Zoroastrians, the Sumerians, they have a different account of the creation stories. And that's where you find in ancient Egypt, they tell you that Atum, yeah, there's a picture on the wall where they show him, or Amun with the phallus, and they show you and they call it Atum. This is where the word atom comes from, because the creation story, as relayed by the ancient Egyptians, tells you about the seed, or the phallus of the seed, or the germination coming from atom. It's no coincidence that atom, and then Adam. They tell you now, they say Adam was the first man, but that's coming from that story of how the atom, because when we go to the atoms, I think I touched on this the last time, where you have, on this side, you have hydrogen, helium going this side, and then going that side, you have E1, E2, E3 going that side, which is dealing with the etheric side, which deals with quarks, biaps, zeelis, etc. So what people are calling how life started from a religious point of view is a very kind of like watered down version of what actually really took place, you know. So this is why in ancient Egypt we had secrets that were only secreted to those people who were taught and initiated. And all the Europeans that became known as the fathers of science, you know, Socrates, Plato, Aristocrat, all of these guys, they were initiated in ancient Egypt. And when you start looking at where civilization came from, you're going to go back to the Nile Valley to Egypt. Until this day, people are marveling and wondering about the Egyptians. How did they build the pyramids? You know, and the things that they did, how were they able to do brain operations and brain surgery and, you know, doing things that till this day, people are still trying to figure out what was going on in Africa before. But it was not anything like what the continental or the Arab slave, again, we say slave trade. It wasn't a trade, it was a kidnapping, because a trade is when you exchange money and get something. So what we're basically saying is, like, if African people were abducted or kidnapped by the Europeans, by the Greeks,
Red Arabs,
the Red Arabs, how are you going to worship their gods and their religion? It doesn't make sense. Black people hate everything about slavery except for Christianity, which doesn't make any sense, because this was beaten into you, and now your DNA is programmed to the point where you're afraid of the slave master. So we want to connect back to our ancestors, back to Africa, back to what works for us. And everyone else, when they pray to their gods, it works for them, because you look on the planet and who's getting help? And why are you not getting help? Because black people, so-called black people, because we're not even black, because we go back to that state of supreme balancement, which is not a color, it's a dark energy, dark matter. So when we say black, we're not referring to the color, yeah? When you go back to why don't we get any help? Why are we the ones that are being abused and, have people say we're on the lowest, what would you call it?
On a scale of, of all the races,
Exactly. So it's not religion and these gods and Allah and whatever we're calling, it's not working for us. And since we've started to reconnect back to our ancestors, we see the changes. We're seeing the changes. So you have to connect back to what vibrates with you by DNA. Another point I must make, when you look at the covenants, these are contracts that were made by these extraterrestrials with certain bloodlines on the planet, going back to like Abraham, going back to Noah, going back to Eve, right? And this is why in the Bible it says the serpent and the woman would be at war with each other. And that's dealing with the fact that the covenant in religion, people think that by going into these religions, they're automatically going to be saved because they're tying into the covenant. But no, it's on the DNA level. If you weren't part of the original contract or the agreement or covenant that was made with these extraterrestrials, you're not safe. So it's a bit of an illusion for people to think that joining these religions, they're going to be saved. They're not. They're not going to be saved, because it's about who was the contract drawn between.
If you had liked the content and would like to see more, hit the like, share, and subscribe button at the bottom of the page.
You can shoot me with your words. You can cut me with your lies. You can kill me with your hatefulness. But just like life, all right, you can shoot.
No matter what the elites of this world dish at us, we, the Nuwaubian race, have risen to all challenges we faced and are still rising. Check out my family on YouTube, OSM Vision, where our soul matters. Until next time, you are loved and stay safe.